Hi BookTube, I thought I'd make a video since I'm sitting here. It's 10:01 at night. It is May the 26th, 2017. Is a Friday night. I suppose you could say this is Friday night reads. So yeah, I'm sitting here and I was reading before I clicked on the camera to make a video. I was reading this little book, Jesus' Son Stories by Denis Johnson. The reason why I'm reading this is late this afternoon, I found out on the internet that the writer Denis Johnson died. I read tonight, he died of liver cancer. He was living someplace in Florida. He was 67 years old, married, has 3 surviving children. So I got this out after I read today that he had died, so I've just been rereading this. I read this years ago, these stories, so I was reading that for my Friday reads. I read almost the whole book. It's only like 160 pages. I stopped on page 91. So I read almost 91 pages of this late this afternoon, this evening. As far as my diary, tomorrow is May the 27th, 2017. I'll be on page 472 tomorrow, Saturday, May the 27th. Tomorrow I once again volunteer at the local library used bookstore, the Book Nook, from 10 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon. So yeah, I have some books I set aside at the Book Nook. One book was on I think early American history. Can't remember the other one. Nothing that would blow my mind. But maybe I'll find something tomorrow at the Book Nook also to bring home. So yeah, today I'm feeling up somewhat better this cold. I still got a lot of slime coming up. But yeah, I'm just praying for healing. Full restoration of my health. I mentioned in my last video I was getting a book in the mail, and I got it yesterday. It's this little book. It's The Odd Woman and the City, a memoir by Vivian Gornick. I read a lot of this when I got it in the mail early afternoon. I just read it. I think that's all I read until the evening hours, if I remember correctly. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this little memoir. It's I recommend it. I wouldn't spend $13 for it. I don't know how much I paid for it. It's amazing. A little book like this costs $13, $14. I could buy in thrift stores. I could buy 15 books for $14, maybe more. Paperbacks usually go for 50 cents, 60 cents. I could buy 14 paperbacks from what you buy this little thing here. So yeah, I was reading that. This Vivian Gornick, she has really interesting videos on YouTube. I recommend those. I looked at those yesterday too. And I was reading today and yesterday, We Believe in the Holy Spirit, Volume 4, Ancient Christian Doctrine, edited by Joel C. Elowsky. So yeah, I read the introduction of this volume, and now I am on We Believe in the Holy Spirit. We believe in the Holy Spirit, the Lord, the giver of life, who proceeds from the Father and the Son. With the Father and the Son, he is worshipped and glorified He has spoken through the prophets. So yeah, I was reading these little quotes. So I really enjoy this ancient Christian doctrine series, and it's good for devotions. Just little things to read. And I also read this morning this big clunker, The Path of Christianity: The First 1,000 Years by John Anthony McGuckin. I started on part 2, like I said I was, and I read the chapter this morning on. It was on the Bible and its interpretation in the early church. So yeah, I read that. Tomorrow, I'm not sure what I'm going to read tomorrow morning. I probably will read John Piper, Reading the Bible Supernaturally. I don't know what I'm going to take to the book Nook to read. I might just take The Odd Woman in the City and Jesus' Son tomorrow morning when I go to the book Nook and read these, something light. So yeah, as far as reading the Bible, I don't know. I was thinking about those verses where it talks about the Holy Spirit. He says, "But ye are not in the flesh, but in the Spirit, if so be that the Spirit of God dwell in you." Now, if any man have not the Spirit of Christ, he is none of his. And if Christ be in you, the whole body is dead because of sin, but the Spirit is life because of righteousness. But the Spirit of him that raised up Jesus from the dead dwell in you. He that raised up Christ from the dead shall also quicken your mortal bodies by his Spirit that dwelleth in you. Now, you talk about the Holy Spirit. I was thinking today, I was reading this book on the Holy Spirit, and I was thinking, you can read something that, and it's all in your brain, but I know as a Christian that I am dwelt by God the Holy Spirit, that I have been regenerated, I have been born again, I have been quickened, I was dead in sins and trespasses, and I've been made alive by the power of the Holy Spirit, God the Holy Spirit. And now I am to live in the Spirit. Some people ask, what is spirituality? What does it mean? What is spirituality? Well, spirituality is living and walking in the Holy Spirit. That's what spirituality is. It's knowing and living in the power of the Holy Spirit. That's the only way you can live the Christian life. He says here, "For if you live after the flesh, you shall die. But if you through the Holy Spirit do mortify the deeds of the body, you shall live. For as many as are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons of God." So how do you know that you're a son of God? How do you know that you're a daughter of God? You're being led, you're being guided, you're being controlled. Not like a zombie, but you are seeking to walk in fellowship with the Holy Spirit. You're seeking to live in the Spirit. Live in knowing that He indwells you and that you want to live, and He gives you the strength and energy in order to live a holy life, to live in obedience to God. And as you live in that kind of life, you're not going to be free from troubles and difficulties. And like today I read Coptic Christians in Egypt are being martyred for the faith. They're dying. Christians are dying all over the world for their faith, even though they're indwelt by the Holy Spirit. So just because you're indwelt by the Spirit of God and that you've been regenerated and you're born again and you're a son and daughter of God doesn't mean that you are not going to face maybe even death for your faith. I was reading that's one thing about the early church, about martyrs. They had martyrs. When you confess the Nicene Creed, it might lead to your own death, or being thrown out of your home, thrown out of your town, losing your family, losing your job. But it says here, "For I reckon the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed to us. For the earnest expectation of the creature waited for the manifestation to the sons of God. For the creature was made subject to vanity, not willingly, but by the reason of him who is subject to the same in hope. For we know the whole creation groaneth and travaileth in pain together to now. But not only they, but ourselves also, which are the first fruits of the Spirit, even we ourselves groan within ourselves, waiting for the adoption, with the redemption of the body. For we are saved by hope. But hope that is seen is not hope. For what man seeth, why does he yet hope for? But if we hope for that we see not, then we do with patience wait for it. Likewise, the Holy Spirit also helpeth our infirmities. For we know not what we should pray for as we ought, but the Spirit itself maketh intercession for us with groanings which cannot be uttered. Then we know all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose." So, these kinds of things kind of comfort us in this world. So when I read this thing on the Holy Spirit, I try to not just read it intellectually, but try to apply it to my own day-to-day life as I live in this house and as I go through my existence. So that's what my Friday Reads is. Volume 4, We Believe in the Holy Spirit by Ancient Christian Doctrine. My Friday Reads is The Path of Christianity, the First 1,000 Years by Anthony John McGuckin. Reading the memoir, The Odd Woman in the City, a memoir by Vivian Gornick. And reading in remembrance of the passing away of the writer Denis Johnson, his very famous short story collection, Jesus' Son. And always reading God's holy word. So I do hope you have a good weekend, and thank you for the comments, and until next time, bye.